episode of General Hospital, Trina warned Jordan to back off of Curtis. Carly and Lucas fought over Marco, and Rocco's arraignment took a shocking turn. Lucas met with Carly and Jocelyn at Bobby's, and they wondered why he summoned them for a family meeting. He asked Carly about her recent trip, and she confirmed that it was a productive vacation. Carly asked him to stop stalling and spill his tea. He proclaimed, "Marco and I are moving in together." Carly was stunned at the news and questioned if he was certain about the choice. Jocelyn defended Lucas's decision, but when Lucas revealed where they would be living together, Carly snapped. After learning that Windermere was her brother's new home, Carly snipped, "Absolutely not. Lucas, that is not happening." Lucas was nervous about telling Carly about the big move because he figured her reaction would be negative. Carly was terrified about Lucas living in the same place as someone as dangerous as Sid. She was worried that his life was at stake if he lived there. Carly cited Sidwell as the person behind the fire at Charlie's and called him a homicidal maniac. He tried comparing Sidwell to Sonny, but she refused to accept the comparison. Carly believed that Lucas wanted the world to see that he had moved on from Brad. Jocelyn tried to intervene, but Carly cut her off. She accused Marco of using Lucas as a means to an end to get close to Sonny. Lucas couldn't believe what his sister said to him, and Jocelyn looked on conflicted between her true feelings and her WSB orders. Carly didn't want to hurt Lucas, but she didn't want him to move in with Marco. She looked for Jocelyn to back her up, but instead, she defended her uncle's decision. Jocelyn told Lucas to do what felt right for him. Lucas stormed away, leaving Carly devastated. Jocelyn asked if Carly truly thought that Marco would use Lucas for it. She asked her not to smooth things over and told Jocelyn she was extremely disappointed in her. Carly slipped and mentioned how Jocelyn knew more than anyone how dangerous. Sidwell was also at Bobby's were Stella and Curtis, and she told him she knew he had a secret. He asked who told her, but she claimed that nobody told her anything. She works at the hospital with Portia and deduced her pregnancy. He was flabbergasted that Stella figured it out and asked her to keep it to herself. However, despite her excitement, he explained that things were more complicated than she realized. Curtis revealed that his marriage was coming to an end, and she instantly told him that it wasn't. He reasoned that the divorce wasn't as sudden as it seemed, and she knew it was coming. Still, Stella thought they worked toward fixing their marriage. But Curtis confessed that the trust wasn't there, that Stella provided him with a timeline of the pregnancy to help things work with Portia. Stella thought the baby changed everything. Curtis did his best to make her understand that he could be a good father without being married to Portia. At the Jerome Gallery, Ava noticed that something troubled Trina. She inquired about it, but Trina confessed that it was something personal involving someone else. Ava urged her to remember that she could tell her anything, and she confided in Ava that Curtis and Portia were getting a divorce. Trina was conflicted about her feelings because, despite not knowing Curtis was her father until recently, she knew how much they loved each other. Trina recounted how Portia stood by his side throughout his shooting injury, and she believed there was some sort of interference in their marriage. Jordan, Sidwell, and Marco arrived in the midst of the conversation, possibly with Sidwell eyeing new pieces for Windermere. Ava congratulated Marco for taking the next step with Lucas in their relationship. He invited her to join them for dinner in the future, which she quickly accepted. Trina shifted attention to Jordan and asked what business she had at the gallery. Jordan revealed she was ready to furnish her new place with some art pieces and asked Trina to show her around. Once they were alone, Trina confronted Jordan for meddling in her parents' marriage. Jordan tried to claim that she was hands-off about the situation, but Trina was itching for a fight. She accused Jordan of pursuing Curtis from the beginning of his relationship with Portia. Jordan tried to blame Portia for how Trina was accosting her, but Trina claimed she saw it for herself, and Jordan was as transparent as glass. Jordan attempted to defuse the situation, but as hard as she tried, Trina was well prepared. She said, "My dad loves me, and he listens to me, and I'm going to make sure that he never goes back to you." Rick met with Turner at the PCPD to discuss the charges against Rocco. She was surprised to see Rick taking on a case involving his brother's grandson. And Rick said that his being attached to the case should be a shining example of how important it was to Sonny. Turner recalled Rocco's underage drinking past and she wanted to teach him a lesson. However, Rick wondered if Turn wanted to make an impression on Sonny and send a message through his grandchild. Rick threatened to shoot holes in the story, being put forth by the prosecution. Turner lowered her sentencing suggestion from a year of community service to 6 months and told Rick to take or leave the offer. Britt raced to the PCPD to speak to the police commissioner about Rocco's case. Nathan intercepted her, but with Dante as acting commissioner, Britt didn't think Rocco would face any trouble with his father in charge. Considering nobody was hurt and there was no damage, Britt didn't think Rocco faced any serious punishments. Nathan agreed that Rocco was being used for political leverage, but they couldn't overlook the fact that Rocco had been caught in the act with key evidence. Britt said that the entire situation had her thinking about Liesl, which left Nathan perplexed. She didn't want Rocco to be painted out like a town pariah in the way that she or Liesl had been in the past. Nathan didn't think Liesl and Rocco had much in common, and he made a joke that eased Britt's anxiety. Nathan agreed to accompany Britt for the arrangement. But on their way out, she noticed Dalton entering the PCPD. Dalton waltzed into the interrogation room and introduced himself to Turner. He wanted her to hear everything he had to say before she left for Rocco's arraignment. At Sonny's house, Lulu asked Sonny if he was certain about Rick being the best choice to represent Rocco against the charges. Sonny admitted that while Rick had his faults, he believed Rick was a good option to help him evade punishment. She was concerned that her mother's mayoral opponent was determined to give Rocco a criminal record. Sonny didn't think Ezra cared about anything more than crushing Laura in the election. Lulu had trouble wrapping her head around how they came to break into Dalton's lab. She was confused about how they had gotten the impression that Dalton was conducting illegal animal testing. Lulu was upset at the situation her son was in, but she was also proud of Rocco for taking the fall by himself and leaving Charlotte and Danny out of it. Not everyone would have that type of loyalty. Sonny believed that he got that type of bravery from Dante and Lulu. Rocco told Gio that he didn't see a need for him and the others to face any punishment for breaking into Dalton's lab. He didn't want anyone going down for it if they didn't have to. Considering Dante and Gio's strained father-son relationship, Rocco didn't want to further complicate things. Gio was having a crisis of conscience about the ordeal, but Rocco accepted his role in things escalating. Emma called it off, but he decided to proceed anyway and break into the lab. Danny and Charlotte followed suit, and Rocco was terrified that Drew would use it as leverage against Danny if he knew he was involved. Rocco encouraged his brother not to worry about the outcome. They went inside and hugged it out before Rocco left for court with Sonny and Lulu. Sonny promised to inform Gio of the outcome. Emma showed up not long after, hoping to check in with him because of the dueling traumas of Ned's health scare and Rocco's court appearance. Emma agreed with Sonny that coming forward wouldn't help Rocco's situation and would exacerbate things further. Laura approached Dante at the courthouse, looking for an update on Rocco's mental state. Dante explained that Rocco was at Sonny's with Lulu to prepare for the pending arraignment. He asked Laura how she felt about the election, now that it had finally arrived, but she was more focused on her grandson's arraignment. Dante didn't think Laura should be at the courthouse on election night due to the optics. Laura missed the debate because of what happened with Rocco, so Ezra could use her absence at the courthouse to paint a picture of her using her office to help him. Laura told Dante that family comes first, and although he loved being mayor, she wasn't missing out on being there for her grandson. He encouraged her to think about Port Charles and how badly they needed her to lead the city. The optics of Laura sitting with Sonny in a court of law would be spun by Ezra and regurgitated to the public in the worst way. She didn't want that. But Dante didn't think Rocco faced any serious sentencing. Laura was worried about how Rocco would feel if she wasn't there to support him. Rick told Sonny, Lulu, and Rocco that he reached a tentative deal with Turner for a light sentencing. Rick invited him into the courtroom, where Laura, Dante, Britt, and Nathan awaited him as his support system. Britt told him that everyone had his back and everything would work out. Rocco was thrilled to see Laura as one of the gallery supporters, and he understood if she hadn't been able to attend, but he was elated that she made it. Laura sat directly next to Sonny at the arrangement, refusing to hide how she felt. Turner arrived